Your views. You can SMS at any time during the show. Type Spectrum, leave a space, type in your contribution and name, then send it to 7197. Your views, our Spectrum, Radio 1 FM.
Hello and welcome. This is Spectrum on Radio 1. I'm your host, Edmond. On Spectrum tonight, we are going to review the week just gone by. Our guests, Honorable David Bahati, Vice Chairman, NRM Parliamentary Caucus. You're most welcome, Honorable Bahati.
Thank you.
Mr. Nichols Opiyo, Legal Consultant at AKIJUL, also a commentator on political and social issues. You're most welcome, Nicholas.
Thank you very much, Edmond, and good evening, listeners.
Honorable Bakko Abia is our third guest. She's the District Woman MP for Arua. You're most welcome, Honorable Abia.
Thank you so much, and good evening.
What are we looking at tonight? Number one, the Libyan crisis. Inside of Libya, the African Union refuses to recognize the Transitional National Council, which appears set to form the next government in Libya, even though Gaddafi is still in hiding. His homes have been ransacked. His children are on the run, apparently. We look at the Mavira debate. What is happening in the inside of Parliament? Is Parliament likely to frustrate the President? We shall also look at the anti-homosexuality bill. The protagonist for that bill is here with us, Honorable David Bahati. We'll also look at the denial of bail bill. What is happening right now? And Makerere University going on strike. You can contribute to this.
Is there a bill on denial of bail? I am not yet aware of that.
Well, the proposed bill. The proposed bill, I think I said that. The proposed bill on the denial of bail. We'll also look at the strike in Makerere by the academic and non-academic staff. You'll be able to contribute to this discussion by sending a text message. Watch this, type the word Spectrum, leave a space, question, message or comment, and send it to 7197. Honorable Bahati, the AU has refused to, says it won't recognize the Transitional National Council, which appears set to form the next government. It has overthrown Gaddafi. What is left is for them to formalize their legitimacy in that country. They've been recognized by 40 countries worldwide. What do you think of the view of the African Union?
In my opinion, they are just buying time. Because the African Union had a fundamental opportunity to pray to stop what is happening now in Libya, but they missed that opportunity. Now, what I think they are saying is completely a PR thing. With time, they will recognize what is happening in Libya. They recognize the transitional government. It's unfortunate that Africa continues to be like this. It's unfortunate that one man can risk and expose millions and millions of lives and destruction of the economy, but also on the part of the Western countries for pursuing one person and his family to allow the destruction of thousands of Libyans and the destruction of the economy. In my opinion, it is pointless. So these wars of ego should, in my opinion, stop at some stage. The same thing that happened in Iraq is the same thing that probably is happening in Libya.
Why do you think they're hiding their heads in the sand? Is it because there could be two reasons? One, he gave them a lot of money, which really could have been overtaken by events. Anybody can give them money. This is Libyan money. It's not money that he inherited from his parents, for instance. Or do you think it's because some of them think they could be in the same boat?
I don't know whether really African leaders think that the Western world takes them seriously. Unless we are financially free, we shall never have a fundamental role to play in the world. So we should fight hard to make sure that African countries are liberated financially, and also we are transparent. Then we can have a role to play in the world. But unless we do that, we are going to continue being bulled down. We are going to be mistreated, and it's just a waste of our time.
Well, South Africa has also blocked for $1.5 billion in frozen funds belonging to the Libyan people. What do you think? South Africa leads the African continent, both economically and to a certain extent politically.
It has blocked what?
$1.5 billion, which the US wanted to be released, to be unfrozen, so the TNC can begin to work. How do you explain the South African attitude as well?
Well, I know they are feeling, of course, as all as Africans, we are feeling bad for what is happening to the Libyan people, not necessarily Gaddafi, but to the Libyan people. You have an economy that was growing very, very, very well, but has been destroyed just in 6 months. You have a society that was coming together, is now in tatters. We don't know how long this war is going to take. Gaddafi might be captured and killed, but we don't know whether it's going to stabilize in the next few months. South Africa, I think they are showing some sympathy to the Libyan people, their resistance to the Western world, but that resistance is going to be temporary. I guess in a few months they should be able to release the assets and help the Libyan people to move forward.
Nicholas, 40 world governments have recognized the TNC, even though you still think it's not a government. What is Africa waiting to in the wings?
Well, I do think that the African governments find themselves in a very tricky situation. First of all, they are demonstrating inconsistencies. Other governments that were toppled by popular resistance or mass uprising, for example in Tunisia, in Ivory Coast, the African Union was very quick to take them on, and recognize them as governments of those countries. But in the case of Libya, the African countries find themselves in a very tricky situation because, first and foremost, the African representatives on the Security Council unanimously voted for the authorization of NATO actions in Libya.
Yes.
UN Security Council Resolution 1973 did not have any country opposing. One country abstained, but African countries voted for the actions we are seeing in Libya. I do think that they should take responsibility for the outcome of the attacks on Libya by NATO, which essentially has paved the way for the overthrow or the imminent overthrow of the government of Gaddafi.
Is the government is still standing?
Well,
maybe you know something that we don't know.
Well, the news coming through from Libya is that nobody has really staked a strong claim on government more than that.
They've taken 95% of the city. What else do you need?
A government isn't about occupation, but about being in control of the facilities that run the state. I think
Gaddafi might come.
The judiciary, I think that the police, the army, there's no such organ to speak about in Libya right now. What you have in Libya is chaos, is a state of lawlessness. Because then thirdly, I think that the African leaders also find themselves in a very unique situation because, take it or leave it, Gaddafi is just one of them. Gaddafi, in terms of the methods of his governance, in terms of how long he's held on to power for a long time, he has many colleagues in the continent. I mean, go to the Gambia, go to Senegal, go to Morocco, all these countries in the Maghreb, with the exception of a few countries like Kenya, like Tanzania, like South Africa. Many of the African countries are actually in the same boat as Gaddafi. They are outrightly dictators who have held on to power using autocratic means. So to jump very quickly to support a rebellion against one of your own, and yet the same can happen in your backyard, for them is very tricky. And I think that is the reason they have still refused to recognize the NTC as a government in Libya. Because, quite honestly speaking, the African Union, which is really a congregation of African dictators, for lack of a better word, have been very strong in supporting Gaddafi, and because simply he's just one of them.
Honorable Abia, what's your view? The AU says they'll wait.
First of all, let's look at the AU itself. 60% of the financing of AU comes from Libya. Yeah. And so what does that tell you? These guys, these comrades, are just protecting this guy because the AU must run. With the fall of Gaddafi, they're not sure what is going to happen to the Union. And so, mindful of the fact that Gaddafi has created and uncreated governments, most especially in sub-Saharan Africa, the dictators around sub-Saharan Africa are also treading very carefully because some of the leaders, he finances them. Don't forget that in our own country, the strong links between President Museveni and Gaddafi are also premised on election financing too. So this is not only in Uganda, it's in many countries across the continent. So they find themselves in a catch-2 situation. Do we recognize the rebels or do we not? So the funding aspect of the union itself, activities of the union, you can talk about the APRM process, you can talk about the strategy for agriculture, the formation and so forth. All these things that made Gaddafi the king of kings in Africa, the king of presidents in Africa, are also having a bearing on to what the country's leaders will say. And so we have to be careful while dealing with this. But the truth of the matter is, how did this gentleman come to power?
Yes.
He overthrew a monarch. He established himself as one. So the reflection here is that you cannot bottle people's freedoms for such a long time, and then you expect that you'll have an everlasting rest. No, you won't.
Right.
And so where there are calls by those countries to say we recognize the rebels, good, you recognize their leadership, but first of all, what are the exterior interests in Libya? Look at Gaddafi as a person.
That is the African Union. The African Union's interest in Libya?
No, I mean the exterior, let's say the foreign countries.
Yes.
If you are talking about America, what is its interest? What about Europe? What about China? What are their interests in Libya? The oil factor comes in here. There's the link between politics and the oil. But look at Gaddafi as a person in the global politics. Here is a man who most of America and Europe, after the Lockerbie bombings, looked at as the leader of the Islamic extremism on the continent.
Yes.
So they will have a part to play in trying to eliminate him from that angle. Then you also have Gaddafi as the person who is pushing for a holistic independence of the African continent in terms of politics and economics. So this does not rhyme well with those superpowers who still look at Africa as a common market for export of their export rates and export of their ideas and influence on the world. So that is something that they also get interested in. Then you look at Gaddafi as a person who is bottling fundamental freedoms of people. So, to me, whether they recognize him or not, his exit is a sure deal. And the most important thing is, what is it that these rebels, after taking power, will do to remember the lives lost? Because the victors in this case are not the rebels. They are not. It's not Gaddafi and his regime that is the loser, but the victors are those who have died, implying there are fundamental lessons to get from this, right from Uganda across the continent and to the entire world, that you can't come as a leader of the people and you pronounce yourself as a leader who is people-centric, and in the end you turn to be egocentric and you think you will last forever. No, it cannot happen. So here is the extreme end of a government that started as a people-centric government and that ended as an egocentric, family-run administration.
Right.
Yeah, so these are the challenges that the continent is facing, and to me, if African Union is delaying to recognize, they are heavily challenged. They don't know in terms of finances which direction they're going to face. For example, if Gaddafi is gone, and if, for example, South Africa withdrew from financing the AU, there would be no African Union. So this alone will tell you the extent to which the continent is run from two extreme points. So many governments would first wait to hear, for example, in the Great Lakes region here, they will want to know President Museveni's position before they can pronounce themselves. Because Gaddafi has made a small revolutionary god in the Great Lakes region. And so probably baby Gaddafi, The Rwandese Kagame would want to hear what this one said. The Burundian leader would want to hear what President Museveni will say. Then Kiwaki will fidget around and say something. You know, this is the extent to which regionally people have placed themselves as political gods on the continent.
Well, the most interesting thing is that Gaddafi is behaving like a terrorist. You know.
That is if he's not one. He's been one.
He now sends messages through, audio messages on radio.
Like Osama. Honorable Bahati, let's look at this a little deeper, very briefly. What would be the logic of you doing that? Maybe the cash is gone. They were supposed to have 15 heads of state, only 3 showed up. I'm not sure if all of them had fuel in their jet without Gaddafi. But what's the logic? It looks like they are hiding their head in the sand. Can it last? Is it? As I discussed Africa in a very strange light.
Well, I think as my colleague here, the lawyer, said, they are really now in a fix because they authorized the UN, NATO, to intervene in Libya, and the consequences and the results are these. So they cannot come at this time and say we are not recognizing them. If they don't recognize them, after all, the rebels are taking over Tripoli. So
they have 95%.
It's real. It's a waste of our time.
So Africa can do better. That's the kind of thing. Let's come closer to home. The Mabira debate, Honorable Bahati again. President Museveni wrote to you in Parliament urging you to support his proposal to degazette Mabira. Were there some new arguments this time? So have you changed your mind?
He wrote to
when he says that he wrote letters, you found them in your pigeonholes. This time it wasn't a constitution, but he wrote you letters. Mabira should go. Let's have sugarcane.
I think it's important that we recognize the fact that there is no bill to degazette Mabira at the moment. There is a debate on whether we should be concentrating on improving productivity on the existing land with meta or expand. That's the debate. There are those that are for expansion, and there are those that think that we should protect the national forest and we should not disgazette it, and we should improve instead the productivity of sugar on the existing land at Meta. The ultimate answer certainly lies with the Parliament of Uganda, and I think the people of Uganda need to be comforted that we have upright members of Parliament in the ninth Parliament, like we have had in the previous parliaments, and we will have debate and I will make a decision on this matter. So it's the people's representative to decide on this matter.
Have you been convinced? Maybe should go.
I beg your pardon?
The NRM copy.
We have no formal requests from the president to start the debate, and when we start, everyone will show where really they belong. So we cannot start legislating in anticipation for something that has not come. It's an issue the president thinks that we should expand the production of sugar. There are several arguments for and there are several arguments against. If, for example, we know for 20 years the population of Uganda probably will be almost 50 million. So if you are going to feed that population with sugar, are you going to be expanding, getting more land to plant more sugar? Or actually the issue should be to improve productivity on the little land that is there. If we take Mabira, are we providing alternatives to plant trees elsewhere, or what are we doing? What example shall we be doing if we take Mabira? Are we having the moral authority to stop the people who are encroaching on the wetlands? All this will come. That's the beauty of democracy. We can debate any issue and have a solution.
But the president wrote a letter, I sent it to you in the NRM, some of you anyway. I don't know if you received a copy. Is that a logical thing? Is that something that you think could sway people?
The president's views on this matter is that we should expand the production of sugar at the moment, and he's entitled to his opinion. As a member of Parliament representing the people of Ndogo West, I must weigh the options available and make a decision on this matter when it comes to Parliament.
Well, but he's been given alternatives, but he still seems to be hell-bent on Mabira. He said he's ready to go to war. He was given 50,000 acres in Bali. He says, even though, I can't pronounce the name, even though he gets...
certainly, that was mocking him. I mean, you could Meta...
Well, it doesn't have to be Meta to give us sugar.
Yeah, no, it doesn't have to. It doesn't have to. But I think the assurance people of Uganda should have is that the members of parliament, the 9 members of parliament, will debate this issue, and the solution to this is with parliament. So that's very, very important to note. The only person who can gazette Mabira is Parliament of Uganda. Yeah.
All right.
Well, Edmond, the debate on Mabira is quite clearly a personal decision of President Museveni. It is not a cabinet proposal, it is not a parliamentary proposal, it is a personal decision of President Museveni. We can only wonder what his motivation is that makes him go against the tide to propose a giveaway to Mabira, to this particular factory or this particular family, the Meta family. That is for you to guess. But I think that discussing President Museveni's views per se, for me, would be a waste of time, because he's told you he's hell-bent on giving Mabira. He doesn't care what the public says. He doesn't care what the country says. What I think we should be debating is whether the Parliament of the Republic of Uganda has the will to withstand the powerful voices coming in from State House. And I'll give an example. I'll just give you 3 examples. In 2003, when the Sempeba Commission recommended amendments to the Constitution, and the recommendations went against the views of the government, the Cabinet came up with a government white paper. In order to get the government white paper to be admitted, accepted in Parliament, MPs were given money for consultations. They're given 5 million shillings, go home and consult about the government white paper. Disregarding a wide consultation conducted by Professor Sempeba.
Right.
In 2005, members of Parliament were given money to amend the Constitution to lift the term limits of the President. Just last year, I think this year, members of Parliament, including my Honorable Abia here, were given 20 million shillings. We all know the intentions of that money was to facilitate the passing of a huge supplementary budget towards the end of the term of Parliament. So for me, my hope is that Parliament does not repeat what they have done and take money, because I'm writing a paper. The paper is titled Vending or Purchasing Parliamentary Legislative Powers, the case of Uganda.
Yes.
Is Parliament vending legislative powers to those who can buy it, or are we going there to purchase? So I think that what we should be debating, what we should be encouraging the honourables here in the House, what we should be encouraging them here is to have the interest of the country at heart.
All right.
And reject the giveaway of Mabira Forest.
This is Spectrum on Radio 1. We're going for a break. When we come back, we'll hear more views on Mabira, also the anti-homosexuality bill and the proposed denial of bail bill, as well as the university strike at Makere planned. Do stay tuned. We'll be back. You can also send your question and comments to Spectrum space 7197.
3 times a year, every year for the past 6 years, I have been stressed going to pay school fees. I've woken up at the crack of dawn, taken 2 taxis and a board. Finally arrived, filled out the forms. I have lined up between a guy with kavubuka and a guy with a nasty cough. And I've waited and waited, but no more now. I have moved on with MTN mobile money. So now I pay school fees directly from my mobile while I spend time with my children.
When you move on with MTN mobile money, your children can move on to greater things. And now, everyone can pay school fees with MTN mobile money. So, be one of the 100 people to win 100,000 shillings towards your next school shopping when you pay school fees with MTN mobile money.
MTN. Everywhere you go. Let's show you how to multiply your savings, starting with the cash beneath the mattress to the savings in the bank that aren't making money. Let's turn your savings into somethings with Super Save Reloaded. Super Save Reloaded brings you savings and investment accounts which offer you a sure and predictable way to multiply your savings. For more information about Super Save Reloaded, ask at your nearest Stanbic Bank branch.
Stanbic Bank, moving forward. So class, we learned today that there is Blue Band original for spreading, cooking and baking, and new Blue Band spread for bread, which is specially formulated for spreading. Good. Some people want a Blue Band original for spreading, cooking and baking, while others want a new Blue Band spread for bread, specially formulated for spreading. And that is even good. We now have Blue Band original for spreading, cooking and baking, and a new Blue Band spread for bread for spreading.
Blue Band now gives you a choice. Blue Band original for spreading, cooking and baking, and new Blue Band spread for bread, which is specially formulated for spreading, making it more affordable.
Therefore, if you have the new Blue Band spread for bread and you spread it on the bread, that means you are doing what? Spreading.
Daily Blue Band, daily growth.
Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90 is brought to you by Stanbic Bank.
Welcome back on Spectrum. Tonight we are reviewing the week. Our guests, Honorable David Bahati, Vice Chairman, NRM Parliamentary Caucus, Mr. Nichols Opiyo, Legal Consultant at AKIJUL, also a commentator on political and social issues. Our third guest is Honorable Christine Bakko, Abia, Arua District Woman MP. You can contribute to this discussion, maybe not by calling in tonight. You can send us text messages on Spectrum Space 7197. We're going to be talking about Mavira. We'll talk about the anti-homosexuality bill and the proposed denial of bail bill, as well as Makerere University, the strike, Honorable Abia, Mavira. Why won't the president let go of the forest? Let them grow sugarcane elsewhere, in Mbale or Sango Basin. Why?
You know, during the last celebrations of the International Youth Day in Arua, the president said, now you are complaining about shortage of sugar in the country. There was this honorable member called Okelo who said our land is sweeter than sugar.